Hello everyone, this is Rupesh again. Today I will be teaching synthesis of peptides. Synthesis of peptides involves many steps, such as first step is protection of amino group of an amino acid. That is, the amino group of an amino acid has been protected. This is also called as N protection. Coming to the next step, protection of carboxylic group of other amino acid, that is the second amino acid. That is the carboxyl group of the second amino acid has been protected. Coming to the third step, activation of the carboxyl group of the protected amino acid. This is the N protected amino acid. This you should activate it. That is, the carboxyl group of the protected amino acid has been activated. Coming to the fourth point, coupling. That is, protected N-protected amino acid, the activated N-protected amino acid and C-protected amino acid has been coupled to give a dipeptide. Coming to the fifth one, deprotection of the protecting groups. These are the protecting groups. PG is referred as protecting groups. And you can see here, the N protection and C protection has been deprotected. And let's discuss one by one. First one, protection of amino group. It is also called as N protection. The first reagent is used the first group is used are benzyl oxycarbonyl group, that is Z. It is also abbreviated as Z or sometimes CDZ. This is the structure of the benzyl oxycarbonyl. This is benzyl oxycarbonyl group. This is the one of the group used to protect an amino group of the amino acid. It is introduced by Bergman and Zervas in 1932. Benzyl chloroformate is used for protection, and this is the structure of benzyl chloroformate. This is benzyl chloro and this is a formate group. And it is also known as carbobenzoxychloride and it is abbreviated as Z chloride or else CBZ chloride. And as I told you, this is a Z group, so the whole thing is Z chloride. And protection using Z chloride, that is protection of amino group using this Z chloride. Z chloride is condensed with an amino acid in the presence of a strong base. And the pH of the reaction mixture is generally kept high. And this is a reaction, this is a Z chloride on reaction with amino acid in the presence of a base at 0 degrees Celsius, and the solvent generally used are acetone and sometimes dioxane also, and we get N protected amino acid, that is here Z amino acid. And you can see here amino group has been protected by Z group and hence it is called a Z amino acid. And this is abbreviated as CBZ amino acid or Z amino acid. And the reaction, as I said, the pH of the reaction mixture is generally kept high just because it has to neutralize the HCl so generated in this reaction. That is, the amino group comes and attacks the carbonyl carbon, so the Cl goes out and therefore HCl is generated. So to neutralize this HCl, the reaction mixture, the pH of the reaction mixture is kept high, that is around pH 8 to 9. For example, Z chloride on treatment with glycine, there is a glycine, in the presence of base at 0 degrees Celsius you get Z glycine. This is the representation of Z glycine. And use of Z chloride causes no appreciable reciprocation. That is, using Z chloride, It is a racemization free reaction. That is, if you use L isomer, the product will also be a L isomer. Coming to the next important group, tertiary butyl oxycarbonyl group, that is, it is abbreviated as Bock group, and this is the structure of Bock group. And as I said, it is the most popular group used for the protecting for alpha amino groups. The tertiary butyl azido format, that is abbreviated as Bock azide, or ditertiary butyl carbonate abbreviated as Bock anhydride, are generally employed to protect the amino group of an amino acid. Let's see Bock protection using Bock azide. And this is the Bock azide on treatment with amino acid in the presence of a base, generally at 0 degrees Celsius, and again the solvent is acetone and sometimes dioxane also. You will get a Bock amino acid. This is a general representation of Bock amino acid. And here sometimes tertiary butyl para-nitrophenyl carbonate is also used instead of Bock azide as a protecting group. And even as I said, ditertiary butyl carbonate is also used, just because this azide group is generally sometimes mild explosive. So instead of Bock azide, nowadays ditertiary butyl carbonate are employed for the protection of N group. Coming to the most important group, that is FMOC, that is 9H fluorinyl methoxycarbonyl group. It is also abbreviated as FMOC group. Why 9H? That is, there is a hydrogen here, so it is a 9H. This is a fluorinyl molecule. This is a fluorinyl, and this is a methoxy and carbonyl. So fluorinyl methoxycarbonyl group. FMOC group has received a wide acceptance due to its resistance to acidic conditions and deprotection using secondary amino acids. That is, it is inert to any acidic conditions, and the FMOC group can be deprotected using secondary amines. Deprotection occurs through base catalyzed abstraction of beta proton of the protecting group, with the elimination leading to the formation of dibenzofullerene. And as I said, 9H is the beta proton. And let's see FMOC protection using FMOC chloride. And this is the FMOC chloride is generally used to protect an amino acid to give FMOC amino acid. Amino acid and treatment with FMOC chloride in the presence of a mild base, that is sodium carbonate in 1,4-dioxane at room temperature or sometimes 0 degree. It depends upon the amino acid to give FMOC amino acid, and this is a representation of FMOC amino acid. And it's a simple nucleophilic attack. The lone pair on ammonia attacks the carbonyl carbon and the Cl is eliminated. Here the mild base is used just because, as I said before, and FMOC is a base labile group, so it can be deprotected by base, so hence mild base is employed here. And we can see the NHCOO is also called as a urethane type protecting group. So N protection is sometimes named as urethane type protecting group, that is, it is also called as carbamate. NH2COH is carbamic acid, hence it is a derivative of carbamic acid. It is also called as carbamate. And coming to the protection of carboxyl group, that is C protection. The carboxyl acid group can be protected as methyl esters, ethyl esters, benzyl or tertiary butyl esters. Amino acid and treatment with alcohol in the presence of HCl, you get a C protected amino acid. This is one of the method. And coming to the second method, it's acid chloride method. Amino acid and treatment with acid sulfonyl chloride, thionyl chloride, and you can use even sulfonyl chloride also. You get an acid chloride. This on Treatment with alcohol, you get an ester. Here you can prepare using same method, methyl ester. If you use methanol here, you will get a methyl ester. If you use ethanol, you will get ethyl ester. If you use benzyl alcohol, you will get benzyl ester. Coming to the second method to prepare a benzyl alcohol, there is a other route to prepare benzyl alcohol. Amino acid on treatment with benzyl alcohol in the presence of paratoluene sulfonic acid, that is a mild acid, under microwave irradiation. You will get in about 30 seconds to 2 minutes, you will get this product in good yields. That is, you will get benzyl protected amino acid, C protected amino acid. Coming to the third method, preparation of tertiary butyl ester. Amino acid and treatment with isobutene. In the presence of acid, you will get a tertiary butyl ester. And recently, even phenyl ester has also been employed. It has been prepared using amino acid on treatment with phenyl bromide to give a phenyl ester. This is a phenyl moiety, hence it is called a phenyl ester. And coming to the important method, that is coupling methods in peptide synthesis. One such method is DCC method, dicyclohexyl carbodiamide is DCC. This is the structure of DCC, that is dicyclohexyl, this is a carbodiamide moiety. Sheehan and Hess in 1955 introduced the carbodiamides, that is particularly this dicyclohexyl carbodiamide, that is DCC, as reagents for the formation of the peptide bond, which was a major event in the history of peptide synthesis. The speciality of this method is the activation and the coupling takes place in a single step. Hence, there is no need to prepare the activated complex. This is the N-protected amino acid and C-protected amino acid. So, N-protected amino acid and treatment with C-protected amino acid in the presence of DCC at 0 degrees Celsius will get a peptide bond, that is a dipeptide in good yields with the side product TCU. Coming to the mechanism, the lone pair, this is a DCC, a lone pair on nitrogen takes this proton and this bond shifts with the formation of double bond, and this bond comes and attacks the carbon, and this bond, the electron moves to the nitrogen with the formation of O-acyl isourea. This is the O-acyl isourea moiety. To this intermediate, if you add an C-protected amino acid, the lone pair on nitrogen comes and attacks the carbonyl carbon, and the bond shifts to form a C double bond O, and this takes up a proton to give a dipeptide with the formation of DCU. DCU is dicyclohexyl urea. It is a simple reaction. Coming to the advantages, as I said before, activation and coupling are achieved in the same step and no need to activate the carboxylic acid. Disadvantages, the separation of DCU, that is dicyclohexyl urea, is tedious, that is difficult to isolate it, difficult to separate from the reaction mixture. The key intermediate O-acyl isourea is highly unstable and decomposes to give many byproducts. And one such side products, let's see, the decomposition of O-acyl isourea, that is O, that is acyl group is attached to oxygen, so O-acyl urea. That is, the lone pair on nitrogen comes and attacks this carbonyl carbon, and the bond shifts to this, and the bond neutralizes the, that is the electron moves to nitrogen to form this side product, which is called, that is the acyl group which is attached to oxygen, it is shifted to nitrogen now. So that is the transformation is O to N shift of acyl group. This is one of the byproduct which we get in the DCC method. Coming to the second disadvantage, that is racemization. Due to overactivation, loss of chiral purity is observed. That is, a racemization is expected. That if you use an L amino acid, the product will be mixture of both L amino acid as well as the R amino acid, and that is when peptide segments are coupled. That is, after coupling, the product will be both L as well as R. Both racemization as well as O-acyl isourea formation can be suppressed by the addition of the auxiliary nucleophile such as HOBT. HOBT is nothing but hydroxy benzotriazole. And coming to the second method, HOBT. As I said, HOBT is 1-hydroxy benzotriazole. This is the first position, 1-hydroxy benzotriazole. It is used to suppress the side reaction which will obtain in the DCC method, and it is used in conjugation with the DCC method. That is, in the presence of DCC, you are gonna add HOBT for the formation of peptide bond. Here I have taken a Z amino acid, that is N protected amino acid. Here methyl ester, that is C protected amino acid. This both on reaction with DCC as well as HOBT, you get a peptide bond with no side products. Coming to the mechanism, as I said before, in the DCC method, the lone pair takes this hydrogen, acidic hydrogen, the bond shifts to form a C double bond O, and this bond comes and attacks the carbon, and the electron moves to nitrogen to form a O-acyl isourea. Here the lone pair on oxygen of benzotriazole attacks the carbonyl carbon to form a benzotriazole derived amino acid. To this, amino acid methyl ester is added. That is, the lone pair on nitrogen comes and attacks the carbonyl carbon, and this oxygen takes a proton to form a HOBT. That is, a HOBT is recovered and it can be used further for the peptide synthesis, and we get as usual peptide bond in good yields without any side products. Coming to the next method, EEDQ method, and it is also called as N-ethoxycarbonyl. That is N-ethoxy, this is carbonyl, this is a second position. So 2-ethoxy 1,2-dihydroquinoline, 1,2, and double bond is missing, hence dihydro, and this is a quinoline moiety. EEDQ is a stable crystalline material and it's commercially available. It can be readily prepared, easily stored, and causes very little racemization or no racemization and no side reaction also. The co-products are, that is the byproducts are quinoline, ethanol and carbon dioxide, which are obtained during peptide synthesis, which can be easily removed. Coming to the reaction, this is N protected. Here I have chosen Z amino acid on reaction with a benzyl ester. I have chosen a benzyl protected, that is a C protected amino acid. In the presence of EEDQ, we get a peptide bond with the formation of quinoline, ethanol and carbon dioxide, which can be washed away with a simple wash procedure. Coming to the mechanism, this oxygen with the loss of proton, the bond shifts here and the double bond comes and attacks the second position of this moiety, and the ethoxide goes out with the formation of this adduct. To this, a methyl ester, that is a benzyl protected amino acid is added, this lone pair of nitrogen comes and attacks the carbonyl carbon with the shift of this bond to form a anion, and we get a peptide bond in good yields. With the formation of this intermediate rearranges to form a quinoline, ethanol plus carbon dioxide. This can be easily eliminated using a simple wash procedures. And coming to the deprotection and racemation in peptide synthesis. Let's see the deprotection of Z group, which can be done in two ways. One of the method is catalytic hydrogenation using hydrogen palladium, and Birch reduction using liquid ammonia in sodium in liquid ammonia. This is a Z protected amino acid on treatment with hydrogen palladium in anhydrous HBr. We get a deprotected amino acid, that is a no protection. With the side products, toluene plus carbon dioxide is evaporated. Generally, palladium is used to cleave the benzyl carbon bond with oxygen. This is the benzyl carbon and oxygen bond. This bond, if you want to cleave this benzyl or carbon and oxygen bond, a palladium is used. Hence, to cleave the Z group, hydrogen palladium is used. The catalytic reduction cannot be used for the amino acid containing sulfur since it poisons the catalyst, such as a Z protected cysteine, Z protected methionine. If you add a palladium, hydrogen palladium to Z protected cysteine and Z protected methionine, it gives a lot of side products with the deprotected amino acid. Coming to the deprotection of Bock group. The reagents used for the deprotection of Bock are 1NHCl, trifluoroacetic acid, and 98% formic acid. In general, all these three are acids. That is, Bock can be deprotected using acid. Mechanism. This is a Bock protected amino acid. On reaction with HCl, we form this a formation of a positive charge. This bond breaks, that is a tertiary carbon oxygen bond breaks and form a double bond. This neutralizes the oxonium ion, that is O positive charge, to give a carbamic acid derivative. This is a carbamic acid derivative. Whereas this bond shifts here, a carbamic acid bond loses a proton and shifts a bond here, and this bond abstracts a hydrogen to form an amino acid, isobutene, as well as carbon dioxide. Coming to the next one, deprotection of FMOC group. Many reagents are available for deprotection of FMOC group, such as morpholin, diethylamine, piperidine, 4-amino-methylpyridine. In general, all these four reagents are basic. Now we conclude that FMOC group can be FMOC can be deprotected using base. This is a piperidine, a lone pair on. This is a FMOC amino acid. This can be deprotected using base. One such is piperidine, a lone pair on nitrogen abstracts the 9H, which is a beta proton, which is acidic in nature, and this abstracts a proton with the formation of carbon anion. This forms a double bond, and this bond shifts here with the and this bond accepts a proton to form an amino acid with the elimination of carbon dioxide and with the formation of dibenzofullerene. Coming to racemization. Except glycine, we know that all amino acids are L amino acids, that is L at the alpha carbon, and these are optically active in order to obtain synthetic peptides with required biological activity. The optical purity of peptide is essential. This can be done either by starting the enantiomerically pure amino acids, that is, we should use only L amino acid or R amino acid, not the mixture of both. Only one enantiomerically pure amino acid we should start for the formation of peptide. Next, conservation of chiral homogeneity during various steps of synthesis. That is, we should use a reagents in such a way that you should not lose the chiral homogeneity. That is, racemization should not happen. In order to avoid racemization during synthesis, the following methods can be employed. That is, mild base. As I said, a mild reagents. Use a base which is basic enough to perform a function but should minimize the racemization. That is, I have chosen a Z amino acid. If you add a base, that is, if you add a strong base under harsh conditions, this will abstract a chiral hydrogen and this will form a carbon ion. This undergoes enolization to give a R isomer, and you can see here from L isomer to R isomer. So here there is a racemization. It should not happen. Hence we should use a mild conditions instead of a strong base as well as a strong harsh conditions. Instead of that, you should use a mild condition so that even after reaction you should get a L isomer as well as the starting material. Coming to the important one, solution phase peptide synthesis. Using all these methods, you should synthesize a peptide. And this solution phase peptide synthesis begins at the N terminus and ends at the C terminus. Or to be simple, it starts from left to right as we draw the peptide. Steps involved are: first step, protection of amino group. That is, as I said before, N protection. Amino acid and treatment with base in acetone at 0 degree, we get N. Here I have chosen a Z protected amino acid. And coming to the second one, protection of carboxyl group, that is a C protection of a second amino acid, not the first one. This is a second amino acid. That is a amino acid and treatment with thionyl chloride and methanol to give a methyl ester, that is a C protected methyl ester. And this reaction is generally called as esterification. Coming to the third step, activation of carboxyl group of the N protected amino acid. That is the activation of the N protected amino acid. You should activate this carboxyl group. That is CBZ acid, that is N protected acid on mild base abstracts this hydrogen with the formation of carboxylate ion, that is a COO minus, with the treatment of ECF. ECF is a ethyl chloroformate. It is an acid activating agent. This O minus comes and attacks the carbonyl group with the elimination of Cl minus to form a mixed anhydride. Therefore, that is, the acid is converted to mixed anhydride. Hence, the reaction is mixed anhydride method. This method is mixed anhydride method. That is, the acid is activated to mixed anhydride. To this reaction, THF is used and the temperature should maintain at -15 degree. This is one of the method. The other method is acid chloride method. That is, the Z amino acid is treated with thionyl chloride in DCM at 0 degree or even lesser to get an acid chloride. That is, the acid is activated to acid chloride. Hence, this method is acid chloride method. Coming to the coupling. Now, The the compound obtained from mixed anide method or the acid chloride method, any method you can choose. To this, a treatment of methyl ester, that is a C protected ester, to give a desired peptide. This is a dipeptide, that is a two amino acids between a peptide bond. Coming to the deprotection, the obtained dipeptide on base hydrolysis, you get a dipeptide acid, that is a methyl ester has been converted to an a carboxylic acid. And now you can follow the steps as before. You can start activating the carboxylic acid using a mixed anhydride method or an acid chloride method, and you can add the third amino acid ester. This is third amino acid ester which comes and attacks the carbonyl group. You get a tripeptide, that is here a lone pair on the nitrogen comes and attacks here, and this byproduct goes in the solution, and in the acid chloride method attacks here with the elimination of Cl minus. And even you can deprotect this Z group using, as I said before, H2 palladium to give a free amino acid, and this can be deprotected using base hydrolysis. So you get a deprotected peptide, that is a both protecting groups have been deprotected. This is the assignment. At the first I have given you this reaction, and you should answer me whether this reaction is feasible or not. If it is yes, then what are the side products, and you should answer me. If it is no, you should give me what are the reasons. And detection of racemization, that is how you detect the formation of L and R isomer. And this is a simple peptide reaction, peptide bond formation reaction. Z-leucine on reaction with glycine ethyl ester, on coupling you get a Z protected peptide with the formation of D isomer also. Here I have chosen L isomer, and generally you should get L isomer, but sometimes you get a D isomer, and it depends on the method you choose. So this can be detected, that is these two isomers can be detected and separated by fractional distillation, and products can be analyzed by optical rotation, melting point, and the extent of racemization during coupling can also be studied. One of the best methods are HPLC and NMR. Studies can clearly show the extent of racemization, that is how much this L isomer are formed and how much percentage this D isomer is formed can be clearly studied using HPLC and NMR. The solution phase method works well for small peptides, that is for tripeptides or tetrapeptides. A large number of chemical reactions and purifications are required even for a small peptide. But the individual yields are excellent. With a large peptide, that is as you extend the chain, the overall yield becomes so small and you can't use further for any studies. And this is a time consuming method. For each and every step there is a purification, washing, workup. So it is a time consuming method. The low overall yields are due largely to the purification steps. That is, during purification yield is lost and it also consumes a lot of time to purify these peptides. The larger peptides and proteins, for larger peptides and proteins, solid phase peptide synthesis is usually preferred. Till now I have discussed about solution phase peptide synthesis. Now let's see solid phase peptide synthesis. In this method, Coupling and decoupling are achieved on the surface of a resin, and the reagents taken in excess are only in solutions. Synthesis of a peptide comprising of a large number of amino acid residue by the conventional method of organic synthesis, that is, a conventional method in the sense a solution phase synthesis can be a difficult task, and introduction of blocking groups, that is introduction of N protecting groups or C protecting groups, and coupling, activation, deprotection, and a large number of operations such as washing the reaction mixture, neutralization of acidic products, isolation, and crystallization of intermediates can be very time consuming, as I said before. Due to this advantages, elegant method called a solid phase peptide synthesis was developed. In this, the peptide is bound to an insoluble support, and any unreacted reagents left at the end of the synthetic step can be removed by a simple wash procedure. This greatly reduces the time required for the synthesis. One of the reactants is attached to the solid phase, that is a resin. That is, the resin and the other reactant which is in solution is allowed to react with it. This is the principle of solid phase peptide synthesis. The resin supports are designed to swell many times in commonly used solvents. That is, the resin is developed in such a way that it swells, that is, the surface area of the resin increases. Thus, the reaction occurs on the surface of the resin, which becomes in the form of a solvated gel and permits access to the growing peptide. That is, it permits to extend the chain of the peptide as many amino acids as you wish. Coming to the Merrifield synthesis. In 1962, a scientist called Robert Bruce Merrifield of Rockefeller University developed a method for synthesizing peptides without having to purify the intermediates. He did this by attaching the growing peptide chains to solid polystyrene beads, that is a polystyrene polymer. After each amino acid is added, the excess reagents are washed away by rinsing the beads with solvents. This ingenious method lends itself to automation, and Merrifield built a machine that can add several acid units while running unattended. That is, there is no need of manpower, and a machine is enough to synthesize a peptide with a long chain. The greatest difference between solution phase and solid phase peptide synthesis is that is solid phase synthesis is done in the opposite direction to the solution phase. That is, it starts from the C terminus and going towards the N terminus. That is right to left as we write the peptide. Whereas in the solution phase, we start from the N terminal to C. That is from left to right. The first step involved in solid phase is to attach the last amino acid to the solid support. The solid support is a special polystyrene bead in which some of the aromatic rings have chloromethyl groups. This polymer, often called the Merrifield resin, is made by copolymerizing styrene with a few percent of, that is generally 1 to 2% of parachloromethyl styrene. There is the synthesis of Merrifield resin. Here, that is styrene on copolymerizing with 1 to 2% of parachloromethyl styrene, we get a polymer. This can be abbreviated as this. Attachment of C terminal amino acid. Here I have chosen an amino acid. With the treatment of mild base, you get a carboxylate ion. This on treatment with Merrifield resin, which attacks this carbon with the elimination of chloride, we get a Merrifield attached amino acid. Once the C-terminal amino acid is fixed to the polymer, the chain is built on the amino group of this amino acid. That is, now you can increase the peptide chain through enzyme. Let's see the example. This is a Bog alanine. On treatment of mild base, you get a carboxylate ion. This attacks the meriphyll resin. With the elimination of chloride ion, we get a Bog with the meriphyll resin attached to it. This on deprotection using HCl, that is, a Bog is an acid level group, so deprotection is generally happens only using HCl, that is deprotection, and with the coupling using Bog valene using DCC, sometimes DCC HOBT method, you get a Bog valene ala peptide. This is a dipeptide with a resin attached to it. And again the steps are followed as before, that is a deprotection using acid, that is a Bog can be deprotected, and immediately a Bog phenane using DCC HMBT method, and the chain of the peptide are increased. It can be lengthened to any extent using a simple procedure. That is, now you can see a tripeptide is formed. This on treatment with HF, liquid HF, that is hydrofluoric acid, the both, that is, we know that Bog is an acid level group, and even this resin can be removed using HF. Hence we get a tripeptide with a deprotector on both sides. We get, this is phenylvaline alanine, it is a tripeptide. And coming to the solid phase synthesis of leucine enkephalin, and this is the structure of a leucine enkephalin. There is a 5 amino acids with tetrapeptide. This is a tetrapeptide, and synthesis starts using Bog chemistry. Bog leucine on treatment with meriphyll resin in the presence of triethylamine. The reaction is stirred for 24 hours under reflex conditions. We get a Bog leucine attached to meriphyll resin. This on deprotection, we get a amino free amine with this will be in the salt form. This HCl, this salt is neutralized using 10% triethylamine in DCM, so you get a free amine. This on coupling with Bog phenane with DCC HOBT method, we get a dipeptide with the meriphyll resin. And this on treatment with HCl, you get a free amine, ester. To this 10% triethylamine in DCM is used to get a free amine. This free amine is coupled using Bog glycine with a DCC HOBT method, and this step you should repeat once again to get a 4 amino acid, that is Bog glycyleucine. It is a tripeptide, and there is a 4 amino acid. And you should again follow the same steps, that is deprotection and neutralization and coupling with the other amino acid, that is Bog tryptophan with the benzyl side protector using DCC HOBT method. You get is tetrapeptide with the meriphyll resin. Now on treatment with liquid HF, both Bog as well as this meriphyll resin has been deprotected to give a leucine enkephalin. That is, at the 5th position there is a leucine, and this is the structure of enkephalin. Now synthesis of methionine enkephalin, that is at 5th position there will be a methionine, and this can be synthesized using FMOC chemistry. Starting with FMOC methionine on treatment with, this is Wang resin. It's not a meriphyll resin, it's called Wang, WANG, it's called Wang resin. On treatment with Wang resin, With the presence of DCC-HOBT, you get a FMOC methionine with Wang resin attached to it. To this, 20% piperidine is used. It is for deprotection of FMOC. You get an free amine. To this, on coupling with FMOC phenyl, you in through DCC-HOBT method, you get a dipeptide. To this, again following the same step, deprotection using piperidine and coupling with FMOC glycine through DCC-HOBT method, you get a tripeptide, and you should repeat this step once again. Since there is a 2 glycine, you follow the same step twice, so you get a tripeptide with the Wang resin, and follow the same step, deprotection and coupling with FMOC tyrosine through DCC-HOBT method, we get a tetrapeptide, that is F5 amino acid. On treatment with 25% TFA and pyridine, FMOC and Wang resin are deprotected to give methionine enkephalin. And coming to the synthesis of oxytocin, which is very important, containing 9 amino acids with the disulfide bridge. There is a synthesis of oxytocin, starts from FMOC glycine. Treatment with Wang resin, DCC-HOBT, we get a FMOC glycine attached to Wang resin. To this, deprotection using 20% piperidine to deprotect FMOC and coupling with appropriate amino acids. That is 8 cycles. Appropriate amino acid in the sense there are 8 amino acids left. So each and every step you should add respective amino acids to form this 9 amino acids, that is octapeptides. After 8 cycles, you get this with the FMOC and Wang resin. To this, 20% of piperidine gives FMOC deprotected peptide with Wang resin attached to it. This on treatment with sodium in liquid ammonia deprotects the benzyl group which is present in the side chains of the cysteine and tyrosine. Gives a octapeptide. This on oxidation with potassium ferrocyanide gives a disulfide bond between 2 cysteines. And lyophilization. Lyophilization is a method used to remove the water under very low temperatures. And HPLC. Through HPLC, this octapeptide can be isolated and you get this respective octapeptide. This is the structure and synthesis of oxytocin. And coming to the next topic, peptidomimetics. The name itself indicates a compound, a peptide which mimics the original peptide. A peptidomimetics is a small protein-like chain designed to mimic a original peptide. They typically arise from modification of an existing peptide in order to alter the molecular properties. They are generally designed to increase the stability and biological activity of the original peptide. The resulting modified peptides which mimic the peptides in their biological function with enhanced stability and bioavailability are called peptidomimetics. And here this is a peptide. In place of peptide there is a urea moiety, hence it is called a uridopeptides. These uridopeptides can mimic, and these are stable and highly biologically active compound which can mimic the peptide bond, that is which can mimic this peptide and enhance its stability and bioavailability compared to this peptide. And these are one such groups, and instead of peptide there is a thiopeptide and is the thiouridopeptides. These are the peptidomimetics which can mimic this peptides, that is which can function with enhanced stability and bioavailability than this. Thank you. This is all about amino acids and peptides. Bye for now.